Welcome back to another episode of AFL by Jellyman here on Tuesday, the 6th of June. Looking back at round 12, obviously a few less games with a few teams having the bye. Looking ahead to round 13, obviously some stats involved as well, and then previewing the upcoming round of games. But jumping straight into it, and as always, feel free to like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Obviously getting those videos for the weekend, but looking back to last Friday, June the 2nd, probably one of the most average games for the season, it's fair to say. Melbourne defeating Carlton 61-44 at the MCG. The Demons win by 17. This one was just kicking efficiency, just cost both sides. There were a number of plays where we saw a simple, 25 to 30 metre chip over the top or short kick, medium range kick, just not hit the target and just sail over the head of the player into the opposition's arms. That was really the biggest thing that cost. I'm sure if you have a look at the kicking efficiency of some players in that game, it just wasn't good enough. Petrarca had 32, was good for the Demons. Chera, Doherty also good. Langdon and Rivers on the wings there. A surprisingly quiet game for Walsh. I think it was something like 29 or 30 plus games in a row with 25 plus disposals. He just had 22 on the night. Hunter, Viney, Salem, all of the good guys showing up for both sides, but obviously Melbourne being the better squad on the day. Harry Mackay kicked straighter, 3-2, also looked more comfortable in his routine. Fritz 2-3, so not a straight kicking night for him, and then a lot of single goal scorers one side, but not too much else to cover on other than the better side won on the night and did what they needed to do. And Carlton are obviously in dire straits at the moment. They have upcoming this weekend Essendon, which is at the MCG on Sunday night before a Queen's birthday or King's birthday, however you want to call it. Obviously a big game coming up for this weekend, and then they kick a lot straighter and have a lot more shots at goal, it's fair to say. Next game was Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn on the Saturday. So Port Adelaide were up by, I think it was 108 points at halftime. Something like that. It was, sorry, not 108, 82 points at halftime. It was 105-23. Hawthorn won the second half, but it finished 151-96. Huge win for the Power. They really just dominated in all facets of the game. Todd Marshall kicked 5, Finlayson 5, even Bruce for Hawthorn kicked 5, Junior Leoli 4, Mitch Lewis 3-2, goals galore on this one. Warple also had 35 along with Impey 33, Rozee and Butters 25 plus each, and then all the Hawks midfielders really chipped in well, along with Wines actually having 24 as well. But what happened should have happened in the game. Obviously Port Adelaide second in the league at the moment, and obviously dominating with 9 straight wins, and they did what they needed to do. Same as in the next game, West Coast versus Collingwood over there in Optus Stadium. Obviously Jordan McGoey will be out for a few weeks with that big hit on young Hewitt. 120-57. Collingwood just much better side in this one, and they once again did what they needed to do in the second half. It was close at half time. It was 81-55 end of the third quarter, 53-27 end of half time, and then Collingwood just blew it out in the last quarter towards the back end of the game, kicking obviously 6 goals to extend that lead out, with West Coast only scoring 2 points in the last quarter. So not too much else to take away from that game there. The next game, the Doggies versus Cats. Now a bit to go into in this one, simply because obviously the Cats winning 97-75. The Dogs not kicking straight at all, 10-15 to 15-7, ultimately costing the Dogs in the end of the day. Goal kickers. Now the Dogs only had single goal kickers, so no 2 goal kickers. So Jamara Ugelhagen had kicked 1-3, which obviously cost them there. Bailey Williams 0-2. And sort of your main guys like Naughton and Lobb not getting their hands on it enough. Rowan, Hawk and Cameron 2 apiece for the Cats. And touches, the Doggies dominated touches, 35 Daniel, 31 Trelaw, 31 Dale, 30 Libba, McRae 29. Tom Stewart was the highest Geelong player, 27, saving a few goals as well. And then you had English, Smith, Bont, then Smith for the Cats, and Oscar Baker 22 for the Dogs, and then Cameron, Tui and Myers. But a fairly better spread of Geelong players obviously getting the football. But the Dogs had a lot more possessions than them, just a matter of not if they were going forward with it or not, which didn't exactly happen. Obviously the Cats getting a win and bouncing back. The Doggies They've got a tough challenge this upcoming week with Port Adelaide, also at Marvel, who Port Adelaide have a good record at Marvel, so that'll be something we'll be looking into. We do probably like the power in that one at a first look without having a look at anything else. Next game for the night, so the Saturday night game, Gold Coast versus the Adelaide Crows. The Crows were up at halftime, 52-35, and then the Suns just went on a scoring spree, kicking 9 goals straight. Ended up winning 112-87, so by 25 points. And there's something with the Suns up there in Darwin, able to play some really, really good footy up there, and they know how to score. Also helps, obviously, the key players for the Crows being held goalless, like mental blank. Rankin being held goalless, and a lot of their midfielders obviously getting a lot of the football, but Gold Coast, when they got it, they just went forward with it and just dominated there. Lukosius kicked 5, Benny King 3, Fogarty had 3 for the Crows, and he's one of the straightest kicks I've ever seen. Walker 2 goals straight, Benny Keys 2-2. Then you had Humphrey, Casbolt, and Anderson 2 apiece, and a lot of singular goal kickers there after that. But the Suns are on a bit of a win streak at the moment, and they even had 32 shots at goal, so 16-16 to 13-9, so it could have been a lot more than it was. Moving to the 2 Sunday games, which ended up being some really good games. Richmond getting the win against GWS, 110-104, and they break their streak of games within 12 points or less. I believe it was something like 13 straight they'd lost within sort of 12 points or less in that range. Marlon Pickett kicking the win goal, and this one was just super tight, and could have gone either way towards the end of the game, really. Just Richmond ended up with a better opportunity towards the back end. Taranto was good against the old squad, 36 touches and a goal. Tom Green, Whitfield, Ash and Ward all dominated, 30 plus each. Short and Prestia were good as well. And then in terms of goals, Revolt marked everything all day. He had 5 goals, 3 behinds, and dominated. Toby Green was good towards the back end of the game, but really unsighted from quarter 1 to 3. And then, as I said, Marlon Pickett up forward. Clark was also good. Kieran Briggs in the ruck was super for the Giants. But yeah, that's about it in that one. Essendon versus North Melbourne. So the Dons beat North 105-99. This one was tight and goal for goal towards the back end of the game. Essendon obviously should have won by a lot more, but North kept themselves in it. North obviously having Simpkin go out early injured. A lot of their young midfielders had to stand up, and they did so. Merritt had a super first quarter, 16 touches and 2 goals, ended with 34 and 2. Caldwell was also good, along with Nick Martin off the wing there. Langford up forward, as well as Perkins up forward were all good. Zerha and Larkey were super up forward for North as well, but not too much else to take away from this game, other than if Essendon play that way this week against Carlton, they could end up losing. But with the way Essendon score the ball and the way Carlton can't score the ball, it should be a Dons win. A quick ladder update to see where we're at. Obviously, a couple teams having the bye, so shifting around there. Collingwood still on top at 11-1 with a good percentage. Port Adelaide second, obviously a big percentage booster there for them as well, 10-2. Melbourne third, equal with Brisbane fourth. Melbourne obviously not having the bye, Brisbane having the bye, both on 32 points each. Melbourne 8-4, Brisbane 8-3. St Kilda in fifth there at 7-4, but we don't know how legitimately they are. They're playing the Sydney Swans this week in Sydney, so we'll see how that pans out. The Dons in 6th, 7-5. The Doggies 7-5 and 7th. The Cats 6-6. Now here's the interesting sort of 3-part. Obviously the Crows are equal 8th with Geelong, just on percentage. They're 6-6. Freo are 6-5, and Gold Coast are 6-6. Those 3 teams are in a better reign of form, we believe, at the moment than the Dogs, Essendon, or not Essendon, but Essendon played some easy squads, even as the Dogs, Essendon, Saints. So we could see those 3 teams flip around in the coming weeks, depending on the teams they play, up and coming anyway. So looking forward now, obviously we'll actually go to the bottom of the ladder. 12th is Sydney at 5 and 6, and then Richmond and Carlton equal in 13th and 14th on 18 points. And then GWS, Hawthorn, North Melbourne and West Coast. I don't think much is going to change towards that bottom end of the ladder. Looking forward to round 13 now, along with some stats as well. So we've got back Thursday night football. This is at the SCG, so in Sydney. St Kilda obviously coming off the bye, so had a week or so to prepare. For this one, we'll need to see who's potentially in for Sydney because of, I guess, they're down back. Recent encounters, Sydney actually beat St Kilda in round 23 last season, 88-74, and the Swans beat them earlier in that season at round 15, middle of the season, 83-32 up at the SCG. And then in 2021, St Kilda beat Sydney 93-64. We'll have to have a look at sort of the St Kilda team and their form at the SCG and how they're going to play that to advantage as well. Obviously, Sydney boosting up their backline potentially with a couple of ins, but we'll have to have a look at that one. Some stats in this one: Warner 25 plus in his last 5 games, Parker 20 plus in his last 6 games, Fox 15 plus in all 7 games he's played, and McLean up for 1 plus goal in his last 5 games. He's been one of the most consistent forwards. For the Saints, Wood 15 plus in all 11 games, Milera 15 plus in all 11 games. Big Maxi King, not Ben King, Max King for the Saints, up forward 8 goals in his 2 games so far this season, and if Sydney don't have a major down back, expect King to dominate again. And Butler 1 plus goal in his last 6 games. Moving to Friday night football, so it's the Doggies versus Port Adelaide. This one's at Marvel Stadium, and Port Adelaide have a hell of a record at Marvel Stadium. And last season, Port Adelaide did beat, earlier this season, in round 5, Port Adelaide did beat the Dogs in Adelaide 70-56. And then also last season, round 8, 86-69. After obviously the prelim final in 2021, the Dogs smacking the Power 116-45. Some stats in this one: Libba 25 plus in 6 of his last 7 games, 20 plus in 10 of 11 games. Dale 25 plus in his last 4 games. Daniel 20 plus in his last 8 games. Naughton 1 plus goal in all 12 games. Butters for Port Adelaide 25 plus in his last 10 games. He's been super of late. Rozee 20 plus in 10 of 12 games. 25 plus in his last 5 games. Houston 20 plus in his last 8 games. Finlayson 1 plus goal in 6 of his last 7 games. So a few good stats there, a few more to come as well. We do like the Power in this one. We'll just see how the team's aim, but just their form at the moment, their form at Marvel, and Western Bulldogs' inability to score scares us. So yeah, we're liking the Power in that one. And in the prior matchup, we likely like the Saints as well. Saturday's games, so 3 games for Saturday. Hawthorn versus Brisbane at 1:45. It's at the MCG. I was going to say it's in Launceston, but it's at the MCG. Recent encounters were actually round 10 last year. The Hawks actually won 117-112, and the Hawks actually beat them in 2021 as well, 92-80. So the Hawks are in actual better form against the Lions there. Some stats in this one: Will Day 20 plus in all 10 games. Warple 20 plus his last 8 games. Amon 15 plus in all 12 games. Bruce 1 plus goal in 7 of his last 8 games. McCluggage 20 plus in 7 of his last 8 games. Cameron 2 plus goals in 7 of his last 8 games. Danaher 2 plus goals in 7 of his last 8 games. And Hipwood 1 plus goal in 8 of his last 9 games. Brisbane coming off a bye, playing at the MCG, which they haven't been known to play well at. But obviously coming off the bye, they're down to Melbourne. They need to get a big win. The Hawks obviously coming off a big loss in Adelaide, potentially down about that one. We expect Brizzy to want to get a big win, and they really should, especially after losing their last game to the Crows, and not thinking they're all that. And the Hawks in games they've lost by big margins. So expect Brizzy to have a big win. Adelaide versus West Coast at Adelaide Oval. The Crows did beat them in the pre-season quite comfortably, but last season 102-86 in round 21, and then also in round 12 88-57. So expect a good win here by the Adelaide Crows, especially with losing last week up in Darwin. They'll want to bounce back, but also the Eagles just decimated by injuries still. Some stats this one: Dawson 25 plus in 7 of his last 9 games. Jones 15 plus in his last 6 games. Walker 2 plus goals in 7 of his last 8 games, and Pedler 1 plus goal in 8 of his last 9 games. For the Eagles, Kelly 25 plus in his last 7 games. Duggan 20 plus in 7 of his last 8 games. Hunt 15 plus in 10 of his last 11 games. And Oscar Allen, 4th in the Coleman at the moment in the losing squad, 2 plus goals in 11 of 12 games. The other Saturday game at the same time, which is silly, we think. Oh no, the other game's at 4:35. That makes it a bit better. The other game on Saturday is Fremantle hosting Richmond over there in Perth. Fremantle coming off the bye. These squads drew last season, 52-all in round 19. And then in 2021 also played a close game, 55-51. Some really low scoring affairs in their last 3. But obviously with Fremantle with opening up the ground of late and Richmond scoring and not being able to really defend as well, expect a high score in this one. Some stats: Brayshaw 25 plus disposal in 9 of 11 games. Young 20 plus in his last 6 games. Clark 15 plus in 10 of 11 games. And a miss up forward, 1 plus goal in his last 9 games and 2 plus goals in his last 4 games. For the Tigers, Taranto been really impressive, 30 plus in 7 of his last 8 games, 25 plus in all 12 games. Baker 15 plus in all 12 games, 20 plus in 8 of his last 11 games. Bolton 1 plus goal in his last 6 games. Ryan up forward 1 plus goal and in the ruck, in 8 of his last 9 games. Moving to Sunday, so Sunday and Monday games obviously extend the weekend because of Queen/King's birthday on the Monday. We've got North Melbourne versus GWS. This one is actually down in Hobart. And the recent encounters, GWS smacked North last season around 13, 102-53. And then they actually played a draw in 2021, also around 13, 94-all. We'll have to have a look at GWS down at Blundstone and how their form is there. But some stats: Zeeble 20 plus in 10 of 12 games. McDonald 15 plus in all 12 games. Larkey 2 plus goals in his last 6 games. Stevenson 1 plus goal in 8 of his last 9 games. Tom Green 25 plus in all 11 games for the Giants. Caniglo 25 plus in 11 of 12 games his first week last week without 25 plus. Toby Green up forward, 2 plus goals in his last 7 games. And O'Halloran 1 plus goal in 6 of his last 7 games there. These sides played off in a pretty high scoring game last week. Each played in high scoring games last week. We'll have to check the weather down in Hobart, but if it is nice, expect a high score to be kicked with both teams' defences struggling. Carlton versus Essendon at the MCG Sunday night will be an interesting encounter. Carlton 80-54 last season around 13, and then in round 7 in 2021, 123-107, and the season prior in round 4, 52-51. So Carlton have recently won well. And then we're looking at some stats here. Walsh, his first week without 25 plus, as we already mentioned, in 7 of his last 8 games. Cherub 20 plus in 11 of 12 games. Curnow hadn't kicked 2 plus goals in his last 3 games, but this season 9 of 12 games. Obviously had a good start to the season, but need to get it back into his hands. Mackay 1 plus goal in 9 of 12 games, and then for the Dons, 15 plus in all 12 games. That's Nick Martin, and then Hobbs 15 plus in his last 6 games. Stringing up 1 plus goal in all 10 games. Menzies 1 plus goal in his last 6 games. This one we're 50-50 on currently. Need to have a look at a few more things, even the teams who's in and who's out. But I think the Dons do have the better scoring against the Blues. But the Blues just really, really need a win, essentially. But we know they may have a couple of injuries as well. Monday, Melbourne versus Collingwood. It's an eternity away, almost like 6 days away. But recent encounters, 89-96 in round 21. Collingwood 96, Melbourne 89 in round 21 last season. And then Collingwood 82-56 in round 13 in this exact game. And Collingwood the season prior in the same game, 80-63. So Collingwood have dominated of late. And we expect them to do so again, just with how they're playing, with how much better they use the ball compared to Melbourne. Clayton Oliver does come back in, but it's the way they use the ball out of stoppages and around the ground that's obviously damaging and will cut open the Demons' defence. Some stats: Petrarca 25 plus in 10 of 12 games. Hunter 20 plus in 9 of his last 10 games. Fritsch 2 plus goals in 9 of 11 games. Pickett 1 plus goal in all 10 games. Nick Dacos for the Pies 25 plus in all 12 games. 30 plus in 9 of 12 games. Pendlebury 20 plus in 10 of 11 games. My check-up forward 2+ goals in his last 6 games, and Ash Johnson 1+ goal in his last 10 games. That is that, and that is it for this week. We do usually have the best bets, but we'll have them in the TikTok and Instagram Reels, just because we're doing this a bit earlier in the week this week, and getting it up and getting it out there. But as always, we'll have them on TikTok and Instagram for our stats and sort of favourite best bets. But that is all for this week. Thank you again for listening in. As always, feel free to go like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, and all that good stuff. Good luck for your weekend ahead of AFL.